For the past month, I've been wearing the brand new Galaxy Watch 9 every day, working out with it, wearing it to bed, testing the battery life, GPS, heart rate, and sleep tracking, and I found features I didn't expect to love, as well as some unfortunate downsides that I think you should know about before buying this watch. I also wanted to make this watch review because, in many ways, this is the best Galaxy Watch for most people. Yet because Samsung made so few changes to it this year, it's likely getting almost no coverage at all. So how good or bad is the Galaxy Watch 9? Now in this video, I'm gonna go pro con for most of it. Starting off with the first positive, the design is really slim, very minimal, and it seems to go well with pretty much anything I wear. I went from wearing the Galaxy Watch Ultra to wearing this, and like this just doesn't get hung up in your sleeves. It's very light, you forget it's even there. It comes in two different sizes, 40 and 44 millimeters. And looking at the design, you can also swap out the straps fairly easily by pushing the button on the back. And because it's using the same strap design as we saw last year, there should be a ton of options on Amazon for fairly cheap to swap this out or to get little lug adapters to other watch bands that you might already have. But going into the first downside, we've got a bunch that I want to talk about in this video, but one is that this just constantly gives me move alerts. Even when I'm standing, it says time to stand up. Like I might have been standing for an hour and it'll just say that. So not the most calibrated for standing desks. Getting back to a positive, I really thought the battery life was gonna be pretty terrible on this, but with the right settings, the battery's not actually that bad. It seems like it can easily last through an entire day. And now battery life is going to depend on your settings and how you use it. Always on display, on versus off. I have always on display off, and I find that this lasts almost 2 days, like not really 2 days, but if I charge it up in the morning, I can get through essentially 2 days. It's respectable in the world of Galaxy Watch, Apple Watch, Pixel Watch, still like pathetic, honestly, compared to like, sport watches that last a month out there. Nonetheless, the battery was better than I expected here. Getting to a downside though, the charging is very slow. I mean, I'm comparing this to, I was wearing the Pixel Watch 4 for a while as well. I now have the 5. I'm not allowed to really talk about that yet. Embargo's gonna lift soon though, so get subscribed for a full review on that one. But a positive here, getting back to the UI of this watch, I really like the way it's set up with, you can swipe to the right and stack your tiles and really customize what's actually shown there. So rather than just going over to weather or health or whatever, you can choose exactly what you want. For example, if you want body composition, ECG, and maybe like the weather, you can have that as your first stack. You can scroll down and make the stack as deep as you want. Now, unfortunately, there is no rotating bezel or rotating dial or rotating crown to really go through this. So instead, you have to do this little digital bezel, as Samsung's been doing for a while, and it works reasonably well. But a downside here is as you rotate through, your finger naturally is going to cover the screen. Like as you go around, you're touching the screen, using some real estate there, and you can't entirely see what you're doing. So I find that I end up swiping laterally as opposed to using that when I'm going through my tiles quite often. Getting to a positive, this does include some pretty advanced health features like body composition, which, I mean, I'll talk about accuracy in a minute, but it's enough to show general trends. It's pretty decent. It also has ECG for potential AFib detection. You have AGE's index. You have blood pressure trends on here. Antioxidant index, probably less useful on that one. That basically just tells you how many carrots you ate. But the watch really does try to include as much health and wellness data as possible. At the foundational level, this watch is able to estimate so many different health factors, hopefully encouraging people to become healthier or perhaps offering early detection of some serious issues. As far as pricing, size, colors, and availability, YouTube has this feature that allows me to tag the products. So if you tap or click on the product, it'll bring you directly to Samsung's site for the best price. I also have links in the video description if you want to check those out. Either one helps to support the channel at no cost to you. But what I really recommend is when you're watching this video, see if the Galaxy Watch 8 is available. I'll put that sticker like on screen and a link in the description. If it is available, check the price. If the gap between the Watch 8 and the Watch 9 is less than $50, then go with the Watch 9. But if it's more than $50, like if you save $100 on the Watch 8, absolutely go with the Watch 8. There's so much that's similar, and I think a lot of these things are gonna be software updates in the coming months going to the Watch 8. Now, getting back to the accuracy of that body composition I was talking about. So I've been testing this pretty extensively with 2 different devices. The Withings Body Scan 2 for the past month has been generally giving me a body fat percentage, which is the main thing I was focusing on here, between like 11 and 15%, which I think is reasonably accurate. But this watch seems to have a much wider range, going anywhere from 12 to 21%. Like just now it did 21%. Let's talk about the app here. I actually really like the way Samsung redesigned the app. So I talked about a lot of data at the base level that this watch is collecting. Organizing it is a different thing. And in the past, it wasn't really Samsung's forte, in my opinion, but now, not only does it allow you to customize what this little home screen is here to show you, like, I care about my sleep score, I care about my workouts this week, I care about the hearing. That's a really cool thing that this watch has. It allows you to detect how much hearing damage you might be getting on one day versus the next. If you go to concerts, see if I can go back to a concert. This day, I went to a concert. I was wearing earplugs, so I can disregard this, but it tells you you are like way unsafe, it's really loud, and you went well beyond your allocated volume for the day. I think that's a useful feature, and I'm happy it's on the watch. But anyway, getting back to the app here, there's a couple tabs across the top. So the home tab, I really like. That's where I spend most of the time on here. I also check out the activities a lot. Whenever I go for a run, for example, it'll show up over here. You can see workouts this week. And if I dig into that, Samsung does a really good job of not only showing you the basic stuff at the top, just high level stuff, but also if you go down, they have some more advanced running metrics like your ground contact time, your asymmetry, your flight time, and you can kind of figure out how can you run better, how can you be more efficient while you're running. They show your VO2 max, energy sources, a lot of stuff that I like that you can dig in a little deeper on this app. You can also see trends over days and weeks, your daily cardio load. Fitness Index is a new one this year. Now, Fitness Index is a little 5-star chart that somehow estimates flexibility. I dug into it, and apparently it uses your body composition. I assume it probably also uses stride length, stuff like that, but it does seem to be pretty accurate. I think out of the 5 points, flexibility is definitely my weak link, and it definitely told me that. You can also choose what your focus is going to be, and the Galaxy Watch does a good job of kind of recalibrating. If you're trying to focus on running, which I am, trying to rehab and get back to running after an injury, or if you're trying to lose weight or just sleep or general health, whatever it is, you can choose your focus down there, and it adjusts accordingly. Just briefly touching on the other tabs you have here, we've got sleep, which you can dig into that, and they have, of course, a lot of deeper metrics here, as well as some really good charts showing you potential sleep apnea or like skin temperature or heart rate variability. You can also dig into your heart health as its own thing. And Samsung also has vitals. I'm going to chalk, this is a neutral. It's not a pro or a con. It just feels like very much a rip-off of Apple. Like, I think they do exactly the same thing on the Apple Watch as of maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And okay, it's a good way to show you 5 things in one place that we already had: heart rate, heart rate variability, skin temperature, blood oxygen, and breathing rate. You can log other things on here as well. Obviously, weight is not going to be something your watch is able to estimate, so you have to tell it that. Same thing with like blood glucose and other things like that. But summarizing that so far, the watch does a good job of capturing a ton of data. I think the app does a really good job of organizing that into pretty meaningful ways and showing you, some basic little sentences or phrases at the top that might be helpful. But one downside on the app while we're still here is I hate that they have on the home screen here on the very top an ad. Like, why do we have a commercial? Like, I don't want an ad right there. It's telling me to buy a better watch, or the more premium, the more expensive watch. And they might have some other insights that are useful, but they're not that useful. It's telling me add more steps this afternoon. I know I'm gonna get to my goal eventually. It's not really as deep of an AI insight as the Fitbits are doing right now, or Google, the Pixel Watch, that whole, Google Health, for example, is doing a much better job. Whoop is doing a better job. Many others are doing a better job of adding those detailed insights right there, because that's some big real estate when you first opened the app. Also, another con is that this watch, although I said it's the best for most people, you are technically missing some features that are on that Watch Ultra. You're missing things like diving, trail running, which now has route planning built into it. It does have a smaller battery than that, but it's also a lot cheaper than the Watch Ultra. So I think the Watch Ultra is a better watch, but this is a better watch for most people. All right, so you collect a lot of data, it presents it really well, but how accurate are those data? Starting off with sleep tracking, just looking at last night, this seems to be doing really well. I compared it to a Muse EEG headband, which is going to be our reference device here. During deep sleep, Muse recorded 107 minutes, this watch 109 minutes. That's a 1.8% error. For REM sleep, the Muse recorded 98 minutes, this watch 97 minutes. That is a 1% error. For light sleep, 252 versus 250 minutes, a 0.7% error, and the awake time, just a 4-minute error, going from 27 to 31 minutes. Now, an independent study found that the Muse headband is the most accurate that you can get as a consumer, but it's still only about 86% accurate, so it's likely that over multiple nights we would see slightly larger discrepancies, but I think this is a really strong indicator that the Galaxy Watch 9 seems to be a really good wrist-based sleep tracker. Samsung also gives you a sleep score, which Today it gave me a 91. I think that was fairly accurate. It wasn't a perfect night of sleep, but after a lot of travel, I slept longer than usual. I felt great when I woke up, and I think that made sense. Over the past month, a lot of the sleep scores felt very accurate to me. Now, as far as GPS and heart rate accuracy, let's head over to my laptop. All right, this is the Galaxy Watch 9 GPS accuracy test. All right, so looking at the GPS here, it started off very rough, to be honest. This dot should be over here. I started right there, and I was going along this sidewalk the entire time. So it was wrong in the beginning all the way up until right about here, which is where it became correct. So it was right over there, and it locked in. This is correct. I crossed right there. I came back, and then it instantly veers off to the opposite side again. Now, these are fairly tall buildings around, so that kind of makes sense, but this does have dual band GPS. It should be a lot better, so it kind of missed all of that. It was off. I did turn right here. Once again, it was off, going a little too far that way. It missed this corner. That was a rough start there. Around the buildings, it did not do well. But once you get to open space like this or shorter buildings, it really did lock on. That is exactly where I went. I went down here. It got this turn correctly. I crossed the train tracks and then went this way. And all of this looks really, really good down here. Along this little river trail, you can see, I mean, the GPS, this is an older GPS image. So this river trail, it looks very good there. It even got when I went under the bridge, it got that quite accurate. And I turned exactly right there. I squiggled through this parking lot. And the only thing is right here, I made that turn and made a 90-degree turn here. So it did kind of cut this corner and that corner a little bit. Otherwise, once I get up here, again, looking quite good. I was a little closer to the bridge than it shows, probably right over here. And then I came and crossed right here. But this is the ultimate test right here. This has, two very tall buildings on either side, right here and right here. And as you can see, I just did 2 laps in this little courtyard here. And so the first lap, you can see it did a good job here actually, but then it cut this corner really hard. It cut that corner really hard, and then it came back. It was correct over here where there's more open space, but this corner, it didn't get it right until the second time I did it. So I'm not sure why it cut that so hard. Here, it looks like I went through a building. There's actually a little overhang here, so that is correct. I went right up here, I turned, and then I went back to this area. Now this, I did cross directly and then turn, so this is a little bit wrong, but generally, the GPS is good enough when you're in open space, but I really wanted to test it in tall buildings. If you're running in a city, you're going to have some issues like this right here. For some reason, especially in the beginning, even though I allowed it to lock on the GPS before I started the workout. And the heart rate here is a similar story. So I compared it to the Polar H10, an ECG heart rate strap you can see in this kind of greenish color. And then the red one is going to be the Galaxy Watch 9. Now, in the beginning, it started low. That's fairly common for optical heart rate sensors to have a weird little lag in the beginning. It kind of caught on right here, and then it just went way over the top right here. Maybe it got locked onto my running cadence, my steps. That's something that wrist-based heart rate sensors sometimes do, but it should have been down here. So this was the biggest error we saw. However, once it locked on, this is probably 3 or 4 minutes into the workout, it was absolutely perfect for the rest of time. Now, this would be really difficult for most watches. This is where you'd expect to see the biggest error when you have a sudden change in pace, sudden change in heart rate, and this had it absolutely perfect. It nailed that coming down. It was really good here. It even nailed the bottom here. It didn't cut that at all. And for the rest of the workout, like I said, it was essentially perfect. A little bit of discrepancy here, but not really much at all, giving us an overall R value of 0.957, which is very, very good, and an R squared value of 91, essentially 92 there. And if we excluded this, I would say it's probably 99 or better. This is nearly perfect, just some error in the very beginning. One more positive I wanted to mention with regards to activity tracking is swimming is something that a lot of watches don't really focus on. And this one actually does a pretty good job of automatically detecting what stroke you're doing while you're swimming, automatically detecting when you're resting or swimming. But a downside is that it doesn't let you manually set laps on here. It only lets you pause or resume or end your workout. And another downside is that the screen is completely disabled when you're swimming, of course. So there's no good way to manage the watch while working out in a pool. And similarly, if you're running and your hands are sweaty, touchscreens are notoriously bad for wet fingers and using this. And while you can use the button to pause, like I said, the buttons generally are doing non-workout things. Like I don't want to open up Gemini. I don't want to go home. I don't want to switch screens. Like I just really want to be able to use the workout and cycle through the different workout screens. For example, in a swim workout, you have several different workout screens. Now, if I turn off the water lock, I can swipe through them. But the water lock is on by default, and it's on for a reason while you're swimming, so why even bother having different workout screens? I think that is a huge oversight, and I know there's like some gestures you could do to kind of like get through that, but it's a very clunky way. It's not an intuitive, smooth, like just double pinch to cycle through it. And it's also not a rotating crown or rotating bezel. You could just cycle through it like that. It feels like, in my opinion, a pretty big oversight that makes this annoying to work out with, not just for swimming, but in many different workouts as well. Look at Suunto, Garmin, Amazfit. Those watches all have, the buttons become dedicated buttons in the workouts to, cycle between screens, do laps, pause, different things like that that are relevant to your workout. And this watch doesn't do that. But a positive is that the display genuinely is excellent. Great color, very bright, easy to read in pretty much any situation. And so at a glance, it's easy to see different colors and understand how your workout is actually going. But a downside is that, the display gets fairly dim and you can put it in sleep mode, but the LEDs on the back seem to be fairly bright when I sleep. Like if I turn my wrist the right way, it is very, very bright, and I do notice that. Now, let's take a look at a quick speed test to see how fast this opens apps and uses Gemini and stuff like that compared to last year's watch. Now, touching on design, you've been seeing it for the past, 15 minutes or so, but I want to talk about what this actually has. So the squircle design, I'm sure there's tons of comments right now. Just scroll down and check it out. Everyone's talking about it. They either love it or they hate it. A lot of people really don't like it. Personally, I don't mind it, but I do miss the round design of like the Galaxy Watch 7. This feels like unused space on the corners. It does protect the screen, I'll say that, but I wish it either had a screen that filled the whole space or it had no, squircle design there. On the right side, you've got two buttons. You've got a microphone between them, and on the left side, you have a speaker. We could do a Gemini test and see how this sounds, but you can also use it for phone calls.
Tell me a joke about how many steps I took today.
0 steps. You clearly prefer the scenic route, the one from your bed to the couch.
On the back, you can see you've got 4 little screws, you've got your little buttons to detach the straps, and you have your bioactive sensor in the middle for your heart rate, ECG, stuff like that. But ECG and body composition also uses the buttons on the side as 2 extra points of contact for your other arm. And just to be really thorough in this video, let's take a quick look at the UI. You can touch and hold the watch face to switch between a number of different watch faces, but unlike the Pixel Watch, you don't have that AI generation of watch faces, so it's a little bit more limited in what the watch faces are. However, you can customize any one that you choose. Swiping from the top gives you the little quick settings there if you want to change brightness or change different modes. Swiping from the bottom shows you all the apps, and you can swipe your finger around the ring, around the bezel, to go through your apps. From the left side gives you notifications, and you can go through all of these or clear them. And from the right side, again, those are those tile stacks I showed you before. But if you would prefer to change any settings or watch faces from the phone, you could go into the other app. This has 2 apps. You've got the Samsung Health and the Galaxy Wear app. So the Wear app allows you to change, those basic settings. If you want to change like the quick panel, that's going to be your settings up top. You want to change the tiles, you can change that here. The app screen, you can change it from a grid view to a list view if it's easier for you to find all your apps like that. I think they did a really good job of making this accessible from a phone where you have much more real estate and it's easier to use your both hands to actually change things. So in conclusion, I would say this is one of the best smartwatches for Android users, but I'm excited to compare this to the new Pixel Watch 5. As far as Samsung watches go, this gives you nearly every feature you could want from the Ultra, with a few exceptions, but in a slimmer and more affordable design. I would argue that this is the best Galaxy Watch for most people out there. Mostly because while enthusiasts, myself included, would prefer the larger Galaxy Watch Ultra with a better battery life and those extra cool like diving features and trail running, I think a big majority of people just want to track their sleep, track their runs, get notifications on their wrist, and that is going to be accomplished perfectly fine with this device right here. So let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. And like I said, check out those links to see Galaxy Watch 8, Galaxy Watch 9, if it's available, and what the price difference actually is. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike O'Brien, and I'll see you in that comparison.